If you're wondering how to fund a startup or raise finance for an existing business, I have 10 ways I'm going to show you in this video which you can raise funds, some of which I've personally used to start my 5 successful businesses, so let's get right into the video. Number 10, credit cards. I'll get this one out of the way first as it's a way to fund a business, but this should be an absolute last resort and credit card funding must be kept to an absolute minimum. If you do fund any part of the business with a credit card, you must prioritise this as something you pay off first before any other form of borrowing. Don't forget you'll be personally liable for the credit card debt, as banks don't tend to give startup businesses credit card facilities, and even if they do, you can guarantee that your home will be security against the credit card. We all know credit cards have a ridiculous APR and you can soon get into difficulty when borrowing on credit cards to fund a business. I've borrowed on credit cards before, but this has to be a last resort form of emergency funding when you need fast cash. When I borrowed on the credit card, this was paid off really quickly to minimise any interest payments on the card. Don't forget, if you use a credit card properly, it's 30 days worth of free credit because no interest starts on a credit card until you've had the balance for 30 days. So do not rely on credit cards to fund a business, they are for emergencies only. I just need to make that clear. So at number 9, we have startup loans. So next we're looking into startup loans or bank loans in general. If you can get a startup loan, they're usually at a preferential rate, although you have to jump through a few hoops to get them, maybe a bit more than a normal loan. You'll have to put your house up as a guarantee on a startup loan or a normal business loan from the bank usually, or have a guarantor in the background. A guarantor is somebody who will pay the loan if you can't pay it, so it needs to be somebody you can trust. Banks aren't in the business of losing cash, so they always want some form of security against a loan which will be used for a startup. They'll probably want to see business plans and the credibility of the person starting a business who needs the loan. I've used Virgin startup loans previously who have been really great in encouraging new business, and they also provide loads of support to people who need it. When you get a startup loan from Virgin, they actually provide you with a business mentor throughout your first 12 months who can guide you through the ins and outs of business if it's something that you're new to. I'm actually looking into becoming a Virgin startup mentor myself after taking a £25,000 startup loan to originally fund my e-commerce business. At number 8 then, we have business startup grants. Some types of business may be eligible for government or local grants to get money for free. Yes, money for free to fund your startup business. There are certain industries the government are trying to push, and as such you may be eligible for a business grant that you won't have to pay back, which is always great when you're starting a business. Many of these grants are in the form of R&D grants for innovation. R&D is research and development for those of you who don't know. So anytime you're inventing something or making it better, and you are spending money along the way which doesn't directly lead to sales, you are conducting R&D and will be eligible for those grants. And also don't forget about R&D tax credits, which you can claim back from HMRC in the UK against your tax bill. I'll create a separate video on this. I've just claimed back a sizable chunk of tax through R&D tax relief. I have a great company I work with on this. If you're interested and you're in the UK, you want me to put you in touch with this company, drop me a message below in the comments section or drop me an email and I'll send you the details. So startup grants are a great way to access free money if you qualify. Check online if this is available in your area and you may be surprised at how much money you can actually get. I've had thousands of pounds in R&D tax credits as well as innovation grants for starting business, so it's well worth looking into. Again, it's a lot of hoop jumping, but it's worth it if you can get free money injected into the business that you don't have to pay back. And number 7, next we look at sweat equity. Sweat equity is a way of getting staff for little to no cost, or a way of you getting equity into another business if you have a desirable skill that company needs at a time when they can't afford to pay you. I personally have a 20% stake in a company in the form of sweat equity where I didn't charge them for mechanically designing their product which they wanted to bring to market. In return, I get a share of the future success in the company. This can go either way though. It can pay off for you in the long term when the company starts to make money, as you'll be getting passive income and paid over and over again for work you've done in the past. But on the other hand, the business can fail and you don't get anything, so that is a risk with sweat equity. If you are the one starting a business, for example, and you've got a great idea for a product and you need it designing but can't afford to pay somebody to do the work, you can offer them equity in the business to do that work and share in the future success of the business. This works the same with if you need a complex e-commerce website designing or an app designing, but you can't afford to pay somebody to do the work. Offer them sweat equity to do the work, but be careful about how much equity you give away. And also make sure you get along with the person you're bringing into the business, as once you give them sweat equity, they're part of the business for the life of the business. So be really careful who you get into business with. At number 6, we're looking at redundancy money. Redundancy money or severance pay is another way to fund a startup business, and this is one where you're in a good position at the start, because to get severance pay or redundancy pay, you've just lost your job and you've got a big wedge of money in the bank. So you have the best of both worlds, the time and the money. Just make sure you don't blow the whole redundancy on your startup. Be sure to keep some in reserve because you'll need that money to live on. Number 5, we're looking at friends and family. This is one of the most popular forms of funding a startup, asking your friends and family to put some money into your business if they think it's a great idea. You can do this in a number of ways. You can offer the family member equity in the business, but if they're not really business savvy, you'll have to explain to them if they take equity in the business and the business fails, that they will lose their money. Make sure this is crystal clear, as I've seen this bite people before, and I've seen people fall out with friends and family over this. It's worth putting a simple agreement together so that everybody understands the term of the investment, and the other option is to take that as a loan rather than an equity investment. So your friend or family member loans you the money and is either paid back with a lump sum at a future date, or is paid back monthly starting at a date in the future over a set period of time. 5 years, for example. The loan can be interest free if they just want to help you out, which is nice of them, or you can agree an interest rate which you are going to pay them back at. I don't believe anybody should be out of pocket for doing you a favour. Obviously it depends on what type of person they are, and don't take money from people who can't afford to lose it. Be sensible on this one, because if your business fails, so could your relationship with that person. At number 4, we have funding by existing employment. If you're thinking of starting a business while you're still employed, you can obviously use your existing salary to fund the startup. I would always recommend that you start the business while you have the safety net of existing employment. This is what is referred to as a side hustle. You build the business up while you are still working, then when your side hustle overtakes your main source of income or has the potential to, you can jump over to it full time, and this is the only time when you quit your job. This could work out perfect timing if there are talks of people being laid off at the company you work for, as you may be able to get a redundancy package or severance pay rather than just walking out the door with nothing. It's not always possible, but it's always worth considering if you can time it right, get some redundancy pay, help fund your startup. At number 3, we're looking at crowdfunding. This is a pretty new way of funding a business and is pretty popular at the minute. Crowdfunding works by basically pre-selling your product idea on a crowdfunding platform. There are many platforms out there now. One of the more popular ones is one called Kickstarter, but I think there are quite a few around now, so just search online and see if you can find one. So what happens is you create a pitch page about your business, product or idea, and then early adopters, i.e. people who are interested in your product, buy a product when it's in the development stage. They then buy this product for a discounted rate, paying money up front to give you the funds that you need to bring this product to market. So the early adopters give you a small bit of money, that helps you bring your product to the market, and in return they either get the product when it's made at a discounted rate or some other form of benefit. It doesn't have to be the product, it doesn't have to be money, it could be as simple as a mention on a website. Crowdfunding works well because if your idea is a good one and you have many people putting money in, you can soon have a substantial amount of cash to fund your startup. For example, if 10,000 people are interested in your product or idea and each give you £10 or $10, that's £100,000 or $100,000 for your startup. And the best thing is, you don't have to pay that back. The other benefit of crowdfunding is it gives your product a lot of exposure. With crowdfunding, you can also get an idea of how popular your product's going to be without having to spend any money to develop it, so that's winning all round. At number 2, we have angel investment. Another popular form of raising finance is through angel investment. This was made famous by TV programs such as Dragon's Den in the UK or Shark Tank in the USA. This is where wealthy people who are often business owners themselves put an amount of money into a business and take a percentage of that business in return. The added benefit with angel investors is that they are often really successful business people and they can give help and advice on running the business and even open doors for you that you wouldn't otherwise have access to. As the angel investors have a vested interest in your business succeeding, they will be more than willing to help you in your business and they want you to succeed. And having an angel investor on board can often help you to get to where you need to be in business quicker than you would have been able to otherwise. So keep all of this in mind when considering the equity you will give an angel investor in your business. Make sure you always retain control of your business by retaining 51% or more of the shares, but make sure you give them a good enough cut in the business to keep them interested. You can always negotiate a reducing equity deal too, where you give them a higher percentage of the business to start with. This amount then reduces when they've been paid back their initial investment. This is always a good idea if the initial equity that they want in the business is more than you were originally prepared to give away. And at number 1, the best way to fund a startup or a business is personal savings. Personal savings is by far the best way to fund a business. This way you are not paying any interest on loans, you are not taking any money from anybody you know, and you are not giving any equity away in your new business. You're simply using your own money to fund your dream. Sometimes though, it's okay to take investment from elsewhere like an angel investor, even if you have the savings to cover it. It's sometimes nice to spread the risk a little. When I started my e-commerce business, I did have enough money to put more money into it, to grow it, but at that time I was at the limit of what I was prepared to risk financially on that idea, so I took an angel investor in the business and in return they got a percentage of that business. But if you want to own 100% of the business and are happy with the risks, then self-funding the business is always the best route to go. It costs a lease and you are only borrowing from yourself, so there's no pressure to pay it back. Just don't forget, don't bet the farm on any single idea, which roughly translated means don't put everything you have into one business idea, because if it fails, then you have nothing to fall back on. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you've got any value out of this video whatsoever, then please hit that like button below. Any business questions or money questions, drop them in the comments below and I'll try to answer every single one. Until the next video guys, I've been Lee Scott, have a great week. The mighty YouTube algorithm thinks you will like this video next, let's see if they are right.